Hello, and welcome to another episode of the So Frickin Healthy podcast. Hi, Donna. How you doing?
Hey, Megan. I'm good. How are you?
I am also excellent. I'm battling the sunlight. As I mentioned earlier, we're doing our episode in the morning, and I'm like a vampire because the sun's just coming in at the wrong angle today. But you look gorgeous. No
Thank you.
sun.
You too.
Okay.
No direct sun right here. There's just a lot of clouds and rain. I don't know how you scored sunshine, but
Yeah. So today we are joined by Arjanna van der Plas, and we are talking about the mental component of long COVID. And obviously, COVID is a trigger word for a lot of people, but we are talking about personal stories today. So don't come for us. We're not doing anything wrong here. We're just talking. So anyway, we are going to welcome Arjanna now.
I'm cracking up because of the intro that you gave me of like, Donna, you shut up. Do not talk about anything controversial when it comes to COVID. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, whatever. If we get in trouble, we get in
No,
trouble. But
it's
anyway,
legit. Yeah.
it's legit. Let's get Arjanna on here and let's talk about COVID. Or
Yeah, I'm super scared to say anything now. No.
No.
I think indeed, if we keep it to the personal story, we should be okay. Nobody should be chasing us after this.
Honestly, I think we'll
Exactly.
be fine either way. And controversies, get more viewers. So I'm all in.
That's what we're
true.
here for. Let's do it.
All right. Well, why don't we just start with a basic introduction, Arjanna? Like, who are you? Where do you come from? And why are you in? We always ask because I think most of our guests are in Switzerland. So maybe how you got to Switzerland?
Yeah. So I'm originally from the Netherlands. I ended up in Switzerland because we spent a bit of time in San Francisco. That's where both of our kids were born. And then we realized we wanted to be back in Europe, but then in a place where there were mountains. As you may know, the Netherlands is completely flat. So you're like, where is a place with mountains that is close enough to home so we can hang out with family easily? So that's how we ended up here. So I'm spending my time here being a parent, but also as a leadership coach. And the way my kids explain what I do is that I help people get along better and understand themselves better so that the world is a bit nicer. So I have to agree with them. That's basically what I do. When I'm not sick with COVID, that is.
Yeah. Oh, great. So, long COVID, I did, of course, a little bit of research. That's my job in our little duo here. Donna is the Donna's the hippie. She just floats here. And I was doing a little. She just comes for the fun. And anyway, I don't even want to. I can't even pronounce it. I don't have it up on a screen. But there is some kind of technical a version of what they call the long COVID. And I personally, I know my doctor, as I mentioned in one of my posts about this episode, my doctor's actually closing her practice because she has long COVID. She's kind of closer to retirement age anyway, but not retire age. But she decided to close her practice because she just simply doesn't have the energy to see clients. And I know another YouTuber, as I mentioned, the physics girl, who's also, and her case, I guess, is really bad in terms of she just can't even get out of bed. So it looks like there's a wide variety of what long COVID is, and where did you fall in on that spectrum, and how did you even figure out that you had it?
Yeah, that's a big question actually, because so I went to the doctors because I'd been sick for so long and I hadn't had COVID. So I figured like, oh, this is what people tell you about. And basically the only thing they can do is they just check your symptoms and the fact that you had COVID, and then you belong in that big bucket of people that have long COVID. So it's really a clinical diagnosis. It's not like something they can measure in your blood or anything. It's just the symptoms. And I think it's like about 200 symptoms that belong in this bucket, and I had like 10 of them or something, so it's really quite vague. But what you generally see is that people get sick with COVID. This is how it happened to me. I got sick with COVID, nothing bad, I had the muscle aches and I was tired. It was like, oh yeah, here we go again. It was the second time for me. Got better, and then literally a week later got super duper sick. like coughing all day long, so tired. I literally felt that I was an elderly person. I couldn't walk up the stairs without getting exhausted. And I'm a sports girl, right? I love to move. I love to be outdoors. And here I am climbing the stairs and being dead, basically. So it was just this really odd sensation. And then, it lasts for a week and you're like, I'll get better. I always get better after a few days. And another week, you're like, I'll get better. This is just a tough one. And then another week and another week. And it just stays the same. Like the symptoms don't change at all. There's no progress. And then when I went to the doctor, I was like, I think I have that thing that's so hip right now. And he confirmed and said like, oh, I can write a letter for your employer that you can work less. And I'm like, well, I'm the employer. This is a problem.
Wow. That's crazy. So basically you got COVID, you got better, and then it sounds like you almost got, remember at the beginning of COVID where everyone was talking about, hard to breathe and the coughing and everything. It sounds like those symptoms only came later. So it was like the COVID that you got was actually more flu-like. And then when the long COVID hit, it was more COVID-like symptoms. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, actually, I didn't think about it that way, but that's kind of true. That's like the COVID in the beginning when we didn't know what to do and nobody was vaccinated. That's what it was like. So it was really out of breath all the time, super tired. Like I could get out of bed, but I would schedule naps into my day to get through, which also made me feel like an elderly person a bit. So I really had to adjust my lifestyle, and I had to explain to the kids. Like try to explain to a 5 and a 3-year-old, mommy cannot be running after you all the time.
Donna, did anybody in your family have COVID? You or any of the kids? Or?
Yeah, we got COVID. So Sky, my oldest got COVID. I don't remember when, like a few months earlier than us. And then we were on vacation. We went to Israel. And we went to Greece and then to Israel, to Greece and then to Israel. And I guess on the flight to Israel, we all caught it. And so Sky caught it first, but never showed positive on the test. And then we just kind of like dropped one after the other and got my dad sick. But we had, it was really weird because for us, it was the kids pitched a fever. I had like a sinus infection and kind of low energy. George the same, and he had a fever as well. I just never get fever. But for me, it was like a day or two, and I was okay. And then I was just kind of like feeling low on energy for a bit, but otherwise okay. And it was kind of weird. Like we did not have the same symptoms whatsoever. Like each and every one of us was showing different symptoms, except for the fever with the guys. And I just thought that I had too much dairy in Greece, and that's why I had a sinus infection, because that's what triggers my sinus infection.
So yours was last summer, right? When you went on vacation. Arjanna, when did you get your COVID? Or when did
my COVID? Sounds like getting a pet.
Did you name it?
I got it in November, which was the second time. I also had it in March for my
last year.
Right on my So right on my husband's birthday, when we were supposed to go to the opera house, I got sick and we couldn't go. And then the second time was this November. And then early December is when I got super sick. I was on a romantic weekend with my husband. We were going for a hike and I just couldn't get up the mountain anymore. I was just coughing and out of breath all the time. I was like, this is really weird and really bad timing, because we don't get a lot of time, just the two of us, right? So I was really pissed about it. I was like, I'm going to make it up that mountain, until my husband said, no.
Do either of you know, I don't know, do either of you know like people who got COVID in like 2021 versus 2022? Do we know if there's like more cases of long COVID after the cases in 2022 versus 2021?
That's a good question.
Well, because like, for example, I got COVID in January of 2022 and I got it, and then my husband got it, and we were bad, like 2 days completely in bed, out of it. And then it took about another 2.5 weeks of the same symptoms that you were talking about, Arjanna, of like my brain didn't work. I couldn't walk upstairs. I couldn't do anything. But I also, it was like kind of like a sickness purgatory, right? You're not sick enough to be in bed and do nothing, but you're not well enough to do anything else, right? But friends of mine got it later in the year, also in Switzerland, and they said it was like a bad cold. So I'm also wondering the severity, and you know what I mean? Like, we all know that this thing has evolved, and I'm wondering if the strains in 2021 have more causes of I wonder if anybody knows that who are listening. They can put it in the comments. But do you guys know?
I have no idea. Really. I do know that it is changing, but you also have these people that got it in 2020, right? And then they're dealing with long COVID for like 2 years. I think that's one of the scary things of this long COVID thing is when you look up how long it takes on average, I think the average is 4 months. Wow. And then you have like the extremes of people that have it for years, and like your doctor has to have to close their practice and things like that. But so you get this disease, and then you're like, okay, so for most people, this is what their life looks like for 4 years. Like your purgatory. It's really like, I cannot really participate in society, but I'm also not like complete. So it's really hard to understand your boundaries, like your new boundaries in that situation.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is crazy. It's very crazy. So how long then did it take for you to feel 100% again?
I don't know when it was like full on 100%, but after 2 months, it was significantly better, which was great because that was, I think, 3 days before the Women's Hub Day, the big event that I do 3 times a year that where I'm hosting for a full day. And I was really like, how can I host a full day? I'm gonna have to schedule in so many naps and sit down. And I was committed to doing it, but it was actually crazy. And I think like 3 days before, it's like, I just walked up the stairs and like, look at me, I'm still breathing. So after 2 months, it was better. But the tricky thing is that whenever I do something that's actually too much for me, I get like huge pushback. So, I host this Women's Hub Day and it's amazing. And then the next day, I'm just in bed the whole day. So it's this sneaky thing.
So it's not gone yet. It's
not gone. No. And the other thing, just recently, I decided to donate blood. I'm O negative. It's like, this is something I need to do for society. Wiped out for 5 days after that. Like, that was just too much for my system. I think my iron was also still super low, which is quite common with long COVID. Not a good idea. So I really, even though I feel better, I need to be super mindful of not overstretching.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So what was the, like, that's insane for me, because I think, we also always think that, like, giving blood is also helpful to the body to kind of like regenerate and fresh blood and all that. But you were wiped out from it. So I'm curious, what are the day-to-day kind of struggles? What were the day-to-day struggles in the first 2 months before you started feeling better? And what are they now when you're better, but still have to be ultra cautious?
Yeah. So during, actually being sick, one of the things I realized is all my work and everything I do, I'm using my voice. So when you're coughing all day, that's a disaster, because I do one-on-one coaching sessions and it's super distracting if I have like a 10-minute coughing spell, or, hosting events, a lot of it was online, so it was great. But when I'm in a room with people and coughing the whole time, people don't really appreciate that these days. So that was just socially very tricky to balance, like, what can I do also towards other people, and also my energy level. So I remember a day where I had I was leading a workshop in the morning and one in the afternoon in a hotel, and I literally just sent people out of the room so I could nap in that hotel room in between sessions. So I really had to be mindful of my energy management, especially when being with a group. And honestly, I think that was too much. I shouldn't have done those things. But then, I'm also self-employed. Like this is what I do. So it's hard to say no to those things. So it was really, really tricky for me to embrace like, oh, this is the amount of energy that I have. And also with the kids, it's a huge problem. Like, because I normally, I'm from the Netherlands, we bike everywhere. I couldn't bike. Like that was too much for me. So I would go pick them up with the car, which is fine. It's what most people do. But for me, that really felt like a big thing to let go of that biking habit. And just the logistics. Like for me, I spent my Monday and Wednesday afternoons with the kids. Well, that was almost impossible for me to have a whole afternoon all by myself with these super energetic little beings. I had to ask for a lot of help to get through those afternoons that are important to me, but I just couldn't fully do anymore. It would just take too much. And then on the days that I didn't have help, I would, I'd have the iPad nanny and I would just be napping on the couch next to them, which, doesn't feel like the best parenting in the world, but it works.
I disagree. I think, self-care is most important.
You're so right. That's so true. And then now, I guess I'm still, like with the donating blood, I'm still surprised sometimes what I can and cannot do. I think in terms of, my energy levels when it comes to sports or being in the mountains are pretty good. But then this whole blood donation thing explodes in my face, right? So it's kind of, I'm still kind of navigating in the dark a little bit where what can I do and what is too much.
Yeah. I wonder if that makes sense though, because your blood has your red blood cells in it, which transports your oxygen, right? And if you're anyway struggling to breathe and you know what I mean? Like if a lot of it sounds like oxygen deprivation, right? Walking up the stairs, brain fog, so on. And so,
So I didn't have the brain fog. That was the good news. My brain was still working, which is why I could still do the workshops and still be coaching. So luckily I didn't have that. And it was mostly the energy and the coughing and the being out of breath after like small things.
And so I have a couple questions, but let me do it in the right order. So the first question is based on what you were just talking about, your day-to-day struggles. So how many of your friends and family, or because you don't have family here necessarily, but how many people around you knew that you were going through long COVID? Did you tell people? And
definitely.
what was their reaction to that? Like, were they nervous to be around you? And that was kind of going to my second question is it technically contagious? Because I couldn't find anything about that. So that might have been, I think that's probably a popular question with long COVID.
Yeah, I think so. So the people close to me, they were worried about me, of course, because, we've all heard the stories of people that have this for 2 years and they were like, wow, if that's you, that really sucks. And also, for my husband, we were really thinking about if this is who I'm going to be in the coming year, what does that mean for how we organize our lives? Because, there's a lot I cannot do. And if this is long term, we need to, adjust some of our plans. So, so there was a lot of worrying and also just practical implications. I didn't get a lot of people that were scared to get sick. I think you're not contagious anymore, but it's not super clear, right? At least nobody got sick. Like, well, everybody was sick this winter, I feel anyway. I mean, there were a lot of people having really nasty colds, and my daughter had pneumonia, and it was like the worst Christmas ever in terms of our health.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, also in terms of my work, I also shared this with the people I work with, obviously. So both Nila, who's my business partner, and my co-host with the Women's Hub, she had to really help me get through some of the marathon sessions that we were doing together. And so, of course, we talked a lot about what I could and couldn't do and where she needed to step in. But also, my clients, I would just be honest about, hey, this is what's going on for me. And well, for example, when I was leading the workshop in the hotel, I was just honest. It's like, I'm going to need to take a nap in between. I'll be there, but this is what's going to happen. And they were super accommodating. So for one session, we decided to move it online because my coughing was so bad. And then at least I had the mute button and people were not scared. So no, people were super nice. And at least they didn't show much of the fear, more of the concern for me.
Well, that's good.
I'm kind of curious, I just, while you were talking and with Megan asked, if people were scared and if it's contagious, I remembered this one guy who was on the news the way beginning of COVID. And I think he was even on a cruise ship and he tested positive for like months, for like 4 months. He was in quarantine and testing positive. And I'm kind of curious. And I think he said he was actually feeling okay, but he was actually testing positive. So I'm kind of wondering, like, was that maybe long COVID? Do you test positive when you
I didn't test positive anymore. Okay. And I did with my first COVID, like the regular COVID in March, I tested positive for weeks after, I think 4 weeks or something. And I was completely fine. I didn't get super sick. It was like this 2 days in bed situation, but nothing terrible. And then, but then with this November COVID, I tested negative quite quickly. And also during the whole long COVID thing, I was just negative. Yeah.
Do we know if people are more likely to get long COVID if they've had COVID twice?
I don't know.
These are all questions now I have to go look up after this.
Yeah, we need to do some extra Googling. But then still, I mean, I've done a lot of Googling while I was sick and we don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
No.
We really don't know.
Oh.
That's exactly what Megan and I were talking about just before we came on the video, because as much as we want to give information and as much as we want to share and kind of, I don't know, give some food for thought for our viewers and listeners, there's really not enough science and not enough information out there. I mean, I can talk about certain things that I heard, but they're not, it's just basically not enough. There hasn't been enough time and there's not enough consistency of, as you said, there could be like 100 symptoms and you had 10 of them. But at the end of the day, like it could literally be anything that the doctors are like, must be COVID related because we don't really know why you have all of these symptoms and everything else is testing negative. Right. So, it feels to me like we're just at this new era of trying to figure out what are the implications of having the vaccine, the COVID itself, just kind of like understanding what our lives are going to look like now because of the last few years where it was really prominent and really kind of getting everyone.
Yeah, I also wonder how many people are being misdiagnosed as long COVID and have something else actually, because it's, you know what I mean? Like, because it is, like you said, the popular thing, the thing to have. I mean, we're making fun, we're joking, but it's serious. But but how many people come in and the doctor's like, well, you just had COVID. This probably is it. And then they just stop looking. And, you have to give some credit to the doctors, obviously. But on the other hand, if they have 40 out of 50 patients come in and they just had COVID and it makes sense that it's long COVID, why would you look for anything else? And I'm just wondering in 2 years from now, when we have 2 more years of data looking back, how is that really going to, we're going to have to do a 2-year reunion on this episode, like what came out with this COVID stuff, long COVID specifically. But I think these are all these questions. And I think that because there are so many questions, because there are so many different varieties of this thing is why it can be so controversial because it's not clear cut. It's not a black and white situation, this or that. Nobody argues if you have a little bit of cancer, you have cancer or you don't have cancer.
Yeah, it's
right?
very,
But something like this is just so ambivalent and ambiguous. Ambiguous.
Yeah, I've been wondering that for myself too. Whereas it took the doctor 5 minutes to decide that it had to be long COVID. And I was like, wow. Also, I had a really quite intense year emotionally. And everybody is getting sick. There were a lot of people that were getting colds. So it's like, what if this is just me picking up everything from everybody? Could have been the case too, right? It doesn't. I have no proof what this is. And there's really a problem now with the research because the funding is getting less and less and less, because the hype is less and less and less, which I think, in a way is good that we're getting a bit back to normal. But for those people that are dealing with long COVID and have the 2-year version, it's really sad that we're losing interest and we're not learning enough about what is really going on for them. And this is, at least in the Netherlands, there's a lot of complaints about, the funding just drying up. I don't know how that is on a global level, but it is a bit worrying because it's so, like with your doctor, kind of really extreme impact on your life.
Yeah. And how is, I mean, especially for people who work for themselves, for your case and for my doctor's case, what kind of financial support do you get for, is it turned then a long-term disability? Is it under, is it covered under disability acts and things like that, people who have severe migraines or chronic pain who can't work? I mean, is it now designated into this area where you can get support?
That's a really good question.
Probably not everywhere, but hopefully some places.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to take a short break now for a little bitty ad. When we come back, we're going to get into the brain of Arjanna and talk about the mental part of all this stuff going on. Hey, it's me, Megan, with a plug for my new workshop. Do you ever find yourself putting off tasks that you know you need to do? Well, procrastination affects many people, and it can have negative effects on your job performance and your mental health. The good news is that you can get better at not procrastinating. The first step is to understand why you do it. And that's exactly what my workshop, Breaking the Procrastination Habit, Understanding Why You Put Things Off, will help you do. Now, in this workshop, you will learn how to identify the tasks you typically procrastinate about, your procrastination behaviors, and why you procrastinate. You will also learn ways to eliminate each behavior and take action to break the habit of procrastination. Finally, you'll reflect on your progress and get support from a community of people who are also working to change their behavior. Are you ready to beat procrastination for good? Sign up for our workshop and learn how to take control of your time and achieve your goals. Now, back to the show. All right. We all got our little drink of water and we're ready to dive in to the mental part of this episode. And because that's kind of what we've titled this, because I feel like, the stuff that we've talked about in the first half is really what everybody talks about, the physical aspects, how it really affects your day-to-day life. So when it comes to the mental part, as a business owner, and can you just walk us through kind of what was going on in your brain when this was happening and how it affected your mental health?
Yeah. So the extra layer for me is that, I'm a coach, so I'm really interested in the mental component and what happens to people when life gets hard. So there was a part of me, like my inner scientist was like, let's see what she's gonna do. What I noticed right away is this strong resistance to rest. So for me to admit, like, I'm actually sick, I need to rest, is a really hard thing. So and luckily my husband knows this about me, but he literally would send me to bed and would explain to me, like, I'm taking the kids now and you're going to be in bed. And just embracing that that's what I needed and not like trying to just keep going and sort of fight my way through it. It was really hard. So I think that was the first thing that I noticed, especially when I noticed, oh, this is taking longer. This is not just like 3 days of doing, taking it easy. This is going to be weeks of taking it easy. That was really a challenge for me. And then the added component to that is then asking for help. I really have this independent woman syndrome. So for me to ask my husband, hey, I know you're tired too, but can you take care of the kids? Or to ask friends here to help me with the kids, or to ask Neela, like, I know we're running this 3-hour workshop and I will probably be in zombie mode some of the times. Can you take over when that happens? For me, that's a really big thing. I or hardly ever have to do that, because usually I'm super healthy, usually I'm super energetic. So it was really, and I think a good learning. I think it's really good to ask for help and to see that people really want to do that for you.
Yeah.
That's been really healing, but it's been really hard for me to take that step and to even think about. So people tell you, like, let me know what I can do for you, and I would just blank. I don't know what people can do for me. What? So that's what I realized too. Is like, I'm not programmed to think like that. And then I realized, like, oh, it's actually really concrete things that people can do for me, like coming over when I'm with the kids so that there's another adult in the room, or cooking for me, or like Nila taking over when we're hosting a workshop together, and I'm like, but I really needed to learn that. And but I think the most difficult mental component of this was how small I felt and how boring the days are when you're sick. I'm someone that gets a lot of energy from doing things and being with other people and making plans. And here I was sitting, having to sleep a lot, which means when you're a business owner that you're doing less outreach, you're less visible. So I could see, like, less clients coming in. And I just felt like I was shrinking and not part of society anymore, in a way. And it was really hard for my ego also. I think that was what part of what kept me going and what kept me, doing the workshops even though I was sick, was like, I don't want to lose this part of my identity, this professional part of my identity.
And when all this was going on and you had to ask for help, what were you telling yourself in your brain? Were you chastising yourself at the time? Were you like, oh, I can't believe I can't do this? Or were you still mentally positive with yourself, and it was just more of these behavior change that you needed to adapt in order to survive through this period of time?
I think my story that I have around asking for help is that other people have rough lives too, and they're also busy and they're also tired. So I cannot burden them with my needs. So I can see that, I had a rough year last year, my husband too, because, he's part of our family unit. So I'm like, he's also tired. He doesn't need, me to be a burden on him. So I'm always very focused on, it's very easy for me to see that life is tough for other people. It's harder for me to see when life is tough for me and when I need to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah, that word burden, I think, is probably the big word there, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's for anybody who's in a situation that needs to rely on someone else who is normally independent. It's probably the key word, burden.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can really resonate with that, because I think that caregivers, and I think it has, for sure, when you're a mother, it's kind of like this holy grail of like, I need to take care of everyone. But also as a woman, we're usually like the caregivers. We're usually taking care of others, and we're saying like, oh, we'll do this for us later, or we'll take care of us later, which is just the worst thing to do, but we all do it. And I think I can really resonate with just like, that even when it's a simple cold that the entire household gets, and you eventually get as well, everyone is laying down, everyone is watching TV and drinking their tea that you made, but you can't actually be sick, right? So you can maybe drink your tea for one afternoon and go like, all right, I need to get back to taking care of everyone else. And it gets so much worse when you're down and you're unable, really physically unable to get up and do stuff as you usually would. And at the same time, not think of your husband, as you said, or, friends who have their own kids. Why would they come and take care of my kids? All of these loopy thoughts of like, why is my life worse now that everyone needs to jump up and help me? And, then I'm like the party pooper in a way. It is probably the most difficult part I can imagine every woman or any caregiver's life, where they need to step down and say, okay, this is time for me to take care of myself.
Yeah, and I felt I was stretching it so much. I was like, I did a weekend where I asked my husband to go out with the kids both afternoons, and then to realize like, oh, but I have to do that again the next weekend and the next weekend. It's like I was already feeling so proud of myself for asking it for one weekend. And then you're stretching and stretching and stretching. And then that was really hard. And I think maybe the hippie part of this story, what happened, what I found really fascinating is, so the week I started feeling better was the week I got a lot of help. And it was a friend coming over, and she gave me this hour-long massage where all I had to do was just lay down, and I was just so relaxed. And then I was talking to, or I had a call with Kriti Nanda, who was also at the Women's Hub Day. She does these beautiful meditations, and she said, hey, I can just do a meditation with you right now. Like, we can have this call, but we can also, take an extra 15 minutes and I'll just meditate with you. And I was so touched by all these things that people were doing for me. And I got better that week, which is like, it's almost like, oh, was that the lesson I had to learn to not just take the bare minimum that I needed from other people, but actually to be spoiled by other people that way.
To accept it lovingly, basically.
Yeah.
That's you ever really interesting.
Did you ever get frustrated and kind of like, frustrated would probably be the best word, that you're not getting better? And did, like any lashing out where you're like, because you're normally, I feel like, a pretty positive person. So, and I am as well. And usually then if I'm not positive, my husband knows something is really wrong. So did you experience any of that where you would normally, have had a positive outlook, but then you kind of like, was your tension on a little bit of a tighter leash because of this, like snapping a little bit faster than maybe you would have normally snapped?
Well, you have to ask my husband for the honest answer, I think. I didn't think I was snapping so much, but I was definitely quite down. Like, everything was a bit more gray in my world. And I think a good example of that is that despite, me being sick and my daughter being sick, we decided to go to the Netherlands for Christmas because we had this whole romantic idea of spending Christmas with the family. And it was terrible. Everybody was sick and we had no energy, and it was just really a nightmare. And I remember just sitting in my bed while we were supposed to have lunch together or something, but I couldn't do it. And I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? I don't want to be here. Why isn't we deserve a good Christmas this year? What's going on? And just this thought of like, oh, is now everything gonna be like this, where I can participate in things? So it was more of a feeling of being down rather than snapping a lot, but more of like, oh.
So did you feel that it was like never gonna end? Did you did you have this feeling of like, crap, this is it, this is my life from now on, and it's not gonna get any better?
Well, I felt I was gonna get better, but just not knowing when that's gonna happen makes it super tricky. So I felt like, okay, this might be a year. I was trying to mentally prepare for, maybe this is going to be a year that's statistically possible. And then I was just like, okay, can I surrender to a year like this? And I think I have surrendered.
Not happily.
No. And always finding, I think when you surrender, you start adjusting your life more than I did. And I think the fact that I was still trying so hard to do my work and still trying so hard to be a good mom shows that I didn't fully surrender. And I imagine if I had done that more, it would have been a lot easier.
So anything that obviously you had to change your day-to-day routine. You already mentioned a few things, building in naps and asking for help. Now that you're feeling better, we won't say 100% because it could still kick in, right? What have you adopted now in your lifestyle that came from long COVID? Are you are you taking better care of yourself in general now, or how has your life afterwards kind of changed because of that?
Well, first of all, I'm so grateful to be healthy again. Like when I don't donate blood and do things like that. So it's this awareness of, wow, it's really a gift to have a healthy body and to be able to do. So to just, have that sense of gratitude in regular life, which is easy when you're just, you just recovered from a nasty cold and you're like, I'm so glad I can breathe again. But just to keep that with you, I think that's what it definitely did for me. And I think also more of an acceptance of, there is a limit to what I can do, and that's okay. And I don't have to compare myself to another person and what they can do. If, I remember recently there was a birthday party I was invited to, and I just felt in the morning of that day, I felt like I can't do this. And I'm, maybe normally would make some sort of flowery excuse around it. And now I just said, hey, I'm sorry, I'm super tired. And I know I just need a quiet night. And I'm not making a big deal of that. That's just what it is. So it's easier for me to communicate when I can or cannot do things. And I think one thing that I think more comes from my husband, but I'm embracing it, is that I'm making more time for things that I do for myself. So for example, tonight, Neela and I are going to a party, and then my husband's with the kids. And so I'm having a bit more of those me time moments scheduled in, which is really, really nice. And there's still a part of my brain that's then like, oh, but my poor husband had a long work week too, and probably like to, be together, because we had this was a week where we both had things in the evening, so on and off, and not the best week for romance. So it's like, he'd probably prefer to be together. And I'm like, well, and also I really want to go dancing. Like, I really want to do that. So to also acknowledge that it's okay, even though it's tough for him to, be at home, that's okay. And he will survive. He's showed to me that he can do this. And in a way, I'm keeping people small by having this assumptions that I always have to be the strongest and I have to accommodate their needs. I think that's a really good development.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I'm glad to hear that, I can imagine that a lot of people can really easily fall into depression, having long COVID and having it stretch so long, and maybe not having the support system that you have, or the amazing husband that you have, or, like just everything that you have put in place for, or even I don't know if it's willpower, but like the ability to take naps during the day, for example, right? I can imagine if someone is working at a corporate job and don't have, a way to schedule their naps in between, or rest, whatever, that could be super hard. It's either having a job or not, basically. And eventually the job's going to be like, we can't wait for you, that long. So I can really, through your story, I can really imagine so many other scenarios of people majorly suffering through this whole ordeal, whether it's months or years, as you said. I'm curious, when you went to your doctor, or maybe you saw more specialists, I don't know, did anyone, like, what was their advice to you? Like, obviously they don't have a medication to give you because there's no medication for this, but what was their advice for you, if anything, on how to deal with this whole long COVID?
Yeah, so they do give you medication, but more for symptoms, so to get the coughing down and things like that, but not, it's not addressing what's at the core of the disease. And it's really, I think the one thing that, well, the doctor said, but that you read a lot too, is to really do less than you think you can do. So you think you're okay to, I don't know, host a full day Women's Hub Day. Don't do that. Like, take one step back and see what feels easy. And that's what you're going to do. You're not going to go for, I think I can do the full thing. You're going to go for, oh yeah, that's really easy. And then probably that's where you want to be. And that's what's also a bit of a mind fuck in a way, where you're like, wow, but I'm feeling better, let's do it. And then you just get a smack in the face again. So you feels in a way, it feels like you're cheating a little bit by just taking it easy all the time.
You're being lazy, right? I mean, that's probably
but that's why you're feeling good. You're feeling better because you're not doing anything. You're letting your body heal. And as soon as you start doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's the thing is that like, how long, because I kind of understand, because like, for people who are energetic as Arjanna is, like, I can imagine that anything less than what you think you're capable of doing feels lazy. Like, I feel lazy. I feel lazy when I have depression bouts or when I'm sick or whatever. I feel like, dude, but I could probably do this. Like, let's just do it. And then obviously you're prolonging the problem instead of helping yourself. But at the same time, you're feeling like you're putting yourself down for being lazy or not doing as much as you could, and then rest when you rest, So I can really imagine it being a complete, like a dissonance in your brain, like a complete fight between, the good, what do you call it? The good angel and the little devil on each shoulder, kind of going like, you need to rest now. No, you can definitely do this. Stop being lazy, and that whole kind of conversation in your head. And you're like, well, what do I do now? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you go off and do a whole day of Women Hub, and then you crash. So it kind of, but at the same time, I'm like, well, how do you know? Right. So how do you know when it's done? You did something that honestly, I would not have imagined having such an impact on you, which is giving blood. And to be down for 5 days afterwards, thinking that basically it's kind of already behind you in a way, or like the majority of long COVID is behind you, and then being smashed for 5 days, that to me says like, is it ever going to be over? Like, is it ever going to be the same as before?
Yeah, that I don't know, and that makes it tricky too. And I also want to go back to what you said earlier about depression. So I've never experienced depression, but I did feel that this was getting me to a dark place and a lonely place. And I think if you're sensitive to depression, if that's part of your life, then I can totally see that an experience like this gets you in that space where it's so hopeless. You don't know how long this is going to last. You can't do the things that normally energize you. It's also isolating, of course, like you see less people. I can really see how this can have a huge impact. And I don't think we talk about that component of this enough.
Yeah, we had a depression episode a couple episodes ago.
I listened to it,
and we talked about, and going back to what you were saying earlier, when you were asking people for help and they said, well, how can I help you? And your mind goes to blank. It's like the same thing when it comes to depression. Either people don't know you're going through it because you put on a mask and you go to work and you try to get through the day. But with something debilitating, you don't, like you said, you don't even necessarily leave the house. But how do people help someone with long COVID? And how do people help someone with depression? I feel like it's almost like long COVID is a physical manifestation of depression, right? It's like what, physically what somebody is actually going through in their brain. Like, I can't do this. I can't get up. I can't do that. And maybe they physically could, but they're mentally depressed. Whereas long COVID is like your brain, like you said, you didn't really even have the brain fog. And your brain is going, I could do a lot of things today, and my body is just not going to cooperate with me. So it's almost, they're very intrinsically linked, I think, in that respect. And like you said, it's a double whammy then if someone is predisposed to depression and then also has long COVID. That's the double whammy.
Definitely. I love brain frog, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Had to bring it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So,
I could really relate to a lot of the things that you mentioned. I could feel, again, when I suffer from depression, I really do feel all of these things without having the excuse, I guess, of long COVID. And, when you say long COVID, people are like, oh, poor you. When you say depression, people are like, good luck with that, basically. Or yeah, kind of. In a way, there's not much that people understand how they can help. And when you really do kind of put them one next to the other, at least your experience with my experience of depression, I feel like it's almost one-to-one in a way. Like maybe I don't have a hard time walking up the stairs and being physically out of breath, but I feel mentally out of breath. Like I feel like, okay, if I had to go one more floor up, forget it, I'll take the elevator. And so you do it because you kind of want to push your body, and that movement helps on the one hand.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you're like, well, but I physically cannot. So to me, it's very, very kind of similar in what your body is trying to tell you and what your brain is meanwhile trying to tell you, and how you're fighting between those two entities and kind of not knowing how to ask for help, or how to help yourself really at the end of the day, because it's just something that is happening at the moment, and that's kind of it. So to me, it was really, I resonated with it. I don't know if, I feel like probably a lot of people don't necessarily even know if and when they have long COVID, because they've experienced other symptoms and other things, and or depression and or autoimmune disease, which has a lot of the symptoms that you'd see for long COVID, or that triggered an autoimmune disease, which it can, and then you're not necessarily aware of it because, as Megan said, you go to the doctor, they look at you, they're like, oh, you had COVID 2 weeks before that? Yeah, it's probably long COVID. And things probably are being missed. And so I feel like there could be a lot to, of course, Megan is not allowing me to talk about it, but I have my own thoughts, and research on COVID in general. I got vaccinated, I got the boosters, I got everything. But at the end of the day now, if you ask me now, like, would you do it again? I probably would not have. But I'm kind of thinking like, how many people are actually suffering through this and are being told it's in your head, or are being told it's long COVID, and that's kind of it. And, being in touch with a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, they are all telling me, like, and doctors, they're all telling me so many people are sick nowadays. We're overwhelmed with work. A lot of people are experiencing depression. A lot of people are experiencing long COVID in one way or another. And they're overwhelmed. I mean, like, so the entire system is overwhelmed. The people are overwhelmed. The practitioners are overwhelmed. And then at the end of the day, we're like, okay, then what now? What do we do? What can actually help? And this is why I asked, like, what did the doctor say? Because I think, in certain ways, I'm sure that some supplements could actually support you. Right? Just strengthening your immune system, getting your iron levels up, getting your vitamin D when you're laying in bed, and the Swiss sun that decides to pop up once a week, which is happening now, is you're not able to actually grab those sunlights. Probably is good to know about certain things that can actually support your body.
Yeah, I think, and this is when I reached out on Instagram, right? I asked people like, hey, what would you do? What would you recommend to do? And then I was overwhelmed with all these, things that people do when they get sick. And it was also hard because I felt like, oh, I need to do all of this. But then of course you really can't.
And you shouldn't, to be fully honest with you. I have to say
No, and it was also kind of triggering, like, oh, there are all these things that I should be doing to get better, and I don't understand all of these things, and I really had to find my own way, and like, what do I do? What do I believe my body needs right now? And one of the things that is super important for me for my mental health is doing sports, which I couldn't because, I couldn't even walk the stairs, let alone do my workout or do yoga or anything like that. So one of my main tools for staying sane was taken away from me. The other is being outside, backside mountain time, what the Swiss love. It's one of my super important mental health tools. Yeah, it could. So one thing we did, we would go to the mountains, and then we would drive up a mountain, a little hill, walk down, and then my husband would get the car to pick us up because I couldn't walk back. So I would have my half hour of walking down the hill, so that at least I could be in the mountains. But it's all of these tools that I would normally use that were now not accessible, and me trying to navigate, okay, what can I do then? And indeed I took extra iron and things like that, but it's really kind of getting to know yourself on a new level.
That's what I was just going to say. I think that like people who go through a traumatic event, losing a limb, having cancer or something, you learn a lot more about yourself when you go through an event like that. And so I feel like even, the silver lining, because there's always a silver lining in everything, is that now you know how you react to this. You know how you can cope with that. And it's an experience that you've had that you can put into your toolbox and say, if this ever happens again or something similar happens again, I know how I'm going to react to that. I know how I can handle it. And I think that's one of the most important things with every experience in life, is just to reflect. And that's basically what we've been doing today, is reflecting on that experience. And you mentioned just before that you hadn't really talked about this very much. So, just by talking about it for an hour, you've kind of can cement all of that really good knowledge about yourself and about, the growth that your family had, that's, it's knowledge for them. It's like knowledge for your family unit as well, like how you go under stress, because a lot of family units under stress can just simply fall apart, either you get stronger or you fall apart. So it's really interesting to see, that you can acknowledge that there's you've learned about yourself, and that this is a part of the good thing that can come out of that.
Yeah, I think that's almost a survival tool for me. When something happens that's difficult, and I'm always looking like, what can I learn? And here too, in very early stages, I realized like, oh, maybe I'm finally going to learn something about asking for help, right? I realized that quite quickly. And I think, there's still a lot to learn for me about asking for help, but I think I got a little bit better.
But you can use all of that in your coaching business to help people work with each other. Everybody loves a story, and now you've got a great story about how you found these new skills and how they can work for you. So see, it's all going to work out in the end.
It's all positive. And if you ever had a doubt that your husband is not the guy for you, now you know for sure that he is, because he sounds
I had no doubts, but this I think it was good for us as a family unit to see that I can be weak and we still survive as a family unit.
Yeah. Amazing.
So we're just about at the top of the hour. Wanted to say thank you very much, Arjanna, for sharing your story with us today on So Frickin Healthy. You didn't feel so freaking healthy over the last couple months, but now, like you said, appreciating health when you have it is really important. And I think we touched a lot of things that we normally touch on: knowledge and mental health and self-care. So really appreciate the time you spent with us today. Donna, any last thoughts?
I'm just kind of proud of myself for not saying anything that would trigger any.
You make it sound like I've got something in your room, like pointed at you, and if you're gonna say something, I could trigger it over here.
No, but thank you, Arjanna. It was really refreshing to hear it from someone who's been through it and is still in a way, suffering through the side effects, the long-term side effects of long COVID. I guess there's like long COVID, we can call it. But thank you for sharing that story, and we really hope that your old energy comes back sooner than later.
Thank you so much. And I do think, and maybe we can do that in our reunion episode in 2 years, but I do think it's important at some point to talk about also the controversial topics, because I think we have a lot to learn from each other and from how we've experienced this whole pandemic. And it's easy to hide all of that, but because it's scary, because there might be conflict, and Megan might be pointing things at you that you don't want. But I do think that it is important to unpack everything we personally learned in the pandemic, and what we maybe would have done differently next time. Like, nobody has experienced anything like that. So I think there's a lot of learning that we can take from it still. So, but stay tuned. In 2 years, we'll talk about that, right?
Mark your calendars.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.